Hello, my name is Mark Maroney. I also have John Smalls with me. We are both risk reduction advisors with Fire and Emergency New Zealand. This presentation is focused on making communities safer from wildfire. FireSmart is a program developed in the US and Canada. FireSmart is proven to reduce the damage from wildfire to homes and the wider community. FireSmart can be used by everyone. It is a simple, easily understood and practical process to follow. FireSmart can be applied to any community anywhere in New Zealand. Fire and Emergency New Zealand is committed to working with any community that recognises the need for greater protection from wildfire. Communities can only make meaningful change if the ownership and recognition of the risk sits with the community. Many communities, such as Naseby, sit within the rural-urban interface. The rural-urban interface is an area where homes meet the rural landscape. Because of this interface, communities can be vulnerable should a wildfire start. Radiant heat and embers are challenges facing communities in this rural-urban interface. Another factor for Naseby is that it sits within the Central Otago climate. Central Otago is the driest district in New Zealand. Long, dry, hot summers, strong winds play a major role in determining fire risk conditions. Wildfires can move very quickly, often cutting off escape routes. Recreational and commercial activities within a community also create risk. Some activities generate heat and therefore can increase the risk of fire starts. Almost all fires originate along the road corridor or within the Naseby community. While we can work to reduce the likelihood of fires starting, we can never eliminate this risk. Hence the need for communities to protect themselves from wildfires. FireSmart is a science-based program. The intent is to reduce the likelihood of fire entering the home. This involves establishing zones around the house. Each zone has a specific role to play. Zone 1, 0 to 1.5 metres, no flammable material, including mulch, vegetation, even fences. So the last 1.5 metres of a wooden fence should be made of material that won't burn. Buildings themselves should be more resilient to fires. Where possible, build with less flammable materials. Think about wooden decks and their potential for embers to land and ignite. The next zone, 1.5 to 10 metres, vegetation is okay, but needs to be well spaced and preferably of low flammable species. The third zone, 10 to 30 metres, allows for more vegetation, but is designed to reduce the fire's intensity as it arrives onto your property. Our Fire and Emergency website provides more detailed guidance on FireSmart. There are a number of overseas websites that I recommend you have a look at to better understand the principles of FireSmart. These are listed in the last slide of this presentation. Fire and Emergency are committed to helping homeowners get the best outcome for their property. If you have any questions, please contact us. Maintenance is a key component to FireSmart, keeping gutters free of debris. Any build-up of leaves around the house and on roofs is managed in a timely manner. Embers flow with the wind. Where you have leaf and debris build-up due to wind, so too will embers land in the same places. Embers can also enter the house through small vents. Evacuation plans are an important component for homes and communities. Having a well-documented and easily understood evacuation plan can be the difference between leaving before a fire arrives or having to stay and shelter at home while the fire passes through. The next 3 slides are videos. These are clips from a FireSmart presentation given to British Columbia communities. I would recommend you watch the whole video. I have added the title to the final slide of this presentation.
So we're talking about the delayed fire situation. This is a really excellent video. It was a doorbell camera from Fort McMurray. You can see that, there's this neighborhood the fire did not reach except for embers. And there was a wood chip mulch border on this flower bed that came right up into the staircase. It ignited underneath, and the fire department responded and extinguished the fire. You'll see that they went away, but again, another report of smoke under the deck. This time they got really serious. They tore it all apart, brought all the equipment again, and worked until they were quite confident that the fire was extinguished. Okay, we're good, right? Well, no, take 3, doorbell camera video. The fire this is what smoldering fire can do for you. It progressed right underneath to the pylons and into the attic, and actually the attic was fully involved with fire in this situation. I don't know if the home survived, but it was apparently the doorbell camera didn't. So, but that just really shows you this insidious, like what embers can do, and those ignitions can sit there for days at a time in Kelowna homes and Fort McMurray. Days afterwards, homes were just popping up and burning. At the end of the day, this area of influence that determines whether or not a home ignites or not is called the home ignition zone. And I'll bet almost everybody's heard that term because it's been embedded in FireSmart for many years. There's been some minor changes to it, but basically it's the home and 30 meters surrounding the home and all the pieces. It consists of 3 concentric zones now that extend out from the outer walls of the home and attachments. And we'll talk about each of those zones in a few minutes in detail, but that's the home ignition zone. That's the area that determines whether or not a home ignites and whether or not a home is destroyed, is that little area there. And one of the most, I think the most instructive piece of video that I've ever seen was taken during the evacuation by a fellow that had dash cams on the front and back of his truck. And this is looking out his back window. When I went back there a week later, I actually found this guy. We followed the path that he took, and we re-looked at this fire situation. So to set the stage, the conditions were extreme. There were high winds blowing and extraordinarily dry fuels because they just didn't get the winter precipitation. And just like this year in Alberta, they had a really hot spell in May, almost the same time as what we're encountering right now. This fire is approaching, it's burning. It has crossed the Horse River, or a large river at the base of this hill, and it's burning up towards this neighborhood. And so that sets the scene. And this is a real-time video. The fire is really moving faster at the back, but this is the evacuation. This is a solid line of people leaving the city of Fort McMurray. The motorcyclist, there's a lot of heat here. That's full crowning fire, probably 60-meter flames above the treetops. And you can see a lot of spot fires igniting here. I want to stop for a second. You can see a lot of spot fires starting along in the dry grass. We've got a road here, a sidewalk, a boulevard, and grass that has not yet greened up. So this is about a 45-meter fuel break. And I want you to watch these flames. What do they do? Tell me if you see them arcing across and contacting homes. It doesn't happen. We're at full crown fire intensity here now. It's getting hot enough, the radiant heat, that this motorcyclist is going to burn out of there. Bad terminology, sorry. He's leaving because he's uncomfortable, but vehicles aren't igniting. There isn't human lives being lost, and no homes have ignited from this fire, and no homes will ignite. But you can see spot fire starting. There's one here in a flower bed full of wood chip mulch, dry leaves, a hedge, some ornamental junipers, and a pine tree right up here against the house. You can see back here, the forest fire is burned out, but the embers are getting really intense. You can see lots of spot fires starting here. And you can see one here, similar kind of flower bed arrangement with junipers and wood chip mulch. So this is real time, folks. The fire has burned out in the forest now. The flames are here. They're not coming across. The radiant heat isn't enough to ignite homes. it's embers starting lots of little spot fires. And in 35 seconds, this home is well engaged in fire. They have a wooden deck right there between the vegetation, their landscaping, and their front window. And I'm willing to bet that that fire has gone through the front window by now. You'll see they have a couple of big, those column junipers igniting in the back door. So that's a real situation. That's how it happens. And I think this is the best proof, visual proof that we can show you that it's not the big flames, it's the roll of embers, and you can see that happening. What it is about this home ignition zone, the characteristics that make it work. First of all, there's no high intensity burning of structures or of the vegetation around the homes within that zone. Second of all, there's no long duration burning of other objects, whether it's boats, RVs, tool sheds, wood piles, piles of old lumber. There's no long duration burning within zones 1 and 2. That is within 10 meters of the house. And thirdly, there's no flame contact with buildings from even low intensity fires that are occurring. As we go closer to the home, the fire intensity is reduced and reduced and reduced. And then all burning and flames or smoldering fire ceases within that 1.5 meter zone. That's your ultimate fire break right there. So the intensity of fires continually is reduced in that 30 meters. And we get to the state where the only thing that's left to deal with is the embers that are falling on the structure itself. And the answer to those is fire-resistant building materials and building designs. Again, not necessarily, not at all rebuilding structures, but just little things and thinking like an ember and dealing with those situations. The last issue that we have to think about in this scenario is that we're not alone in urban areas. We have a lot of neighbors, and the fact that fires can spread from one home to another. So this is that same neighborhood before the fire, Beacon Hill, and here's the position of those 2 ignitions. But how did we get to the point from a whole neighborhood like that in 2 ignitions to more than 90% of the homes being destroyed? That's the fact that fire spreads from one home to the other, either through embers or just directly because there's flame contact, or most often radiant heat is too long lasting and leads to ignition. So we have to deal with that issue of overlapping homes and overlapping home ignition zones, and that's why we need such good cooperation. This is a neighborhood issue. It's not just an individual issue. We have to work at this problem with our neighbors.
So thank you, Mark. But let's not just think of the doom and gloom. We see this as an opportunity to take action. If we know the risk, we can mitigate that risk, but that requires the community to be involved. We want to work with your community to help reduce this risk and, where possible, prepare for an event. We can all agree there is risk here, but we can manage that risk through shared understanding and, importantly, shared agreement to take action. There are many ways we can take action, but it is imperative we increase the awareness of the issue within the Naseby community first, and you decide as a group what action you would like to take, with our advice, of course. As a starting point, we think what will be most successful is a community response group, or CRG. It's important to note that this is your group. We can feed information into it as time goes by. It could even build into the wider emergency management landscape. However, in the initial stages, we will concentrate on wildfire readiness and risk reduction, but once established, the opportunity exists to spread through our agency partners to the wider scope of other emergencies. So the CRG, it could do the following things, but it's important to understand these ideas are ours, and you may want to propose your own solutions. In fact, we encourage that. We could develop a range of bespoke resources, checklists for the Naseby community, mail drops to every resident so that we can reach more people. When we look at mail drops, this would also include some surrounding areas. The more awareness, the greater the impact, and we need those links to the wider community for greater resilience. Public education, including for visitors, is an important aspect of any community response plan, and for informing visitors and new residents what to do in the event of a wildfire. This may be a challenge, but it's one that we need to rise to. A complex risk requires strong partnerships. The community is the heart of the programme and remains at the centre. Fens do not own this work. It will be the community response group's chance to build alliances and build capability within the community. These groups, including Central Otago District Council, Fire and Emergency of course, the Emergency Management Otago and local forestry companies are already on board. But who do you think could help us? No organisation should be seen as too big or too small to be involved. For emergency responders to be effective, the community needs to prepare. Communities everywhere, but no more so than Naseby, have to accept and be responsible for their own preparedness. Dialing 111 is not the be-all and end-all of a community risk management plan. We need your help to ensure that when you do dial 111, then we as responders have a fighting chance of protecting your families, homes and whatever else you value. Please do take the time to watch this video and see a real-world example of where programs such as this have worked. Whilst you're welcome to watch the entire webinar, the most important aspect that will be relatable to you is between 6 minutes 25 and 10 minutes 55, so feel free to skip the rest. Thank you for your time and engagement with this presentation, and please stay in touch.